Today I'm gonna show you how to do this in After Effects. What's up guys, welcome to another episode here on Sam's Creative Toolbox. Like always, I'm your host Sam. You can also find me here on my Facebook page. And like I said, today is all about that, let's call it torn or tear paper effect. It's actually a great effect to reveal a logo, to reveal a video. It's not that easy to create in After Effects, but I hope that after this video it's a bit more clear for you. And yeah, let's go to After Effects and have some fun. Okay guys, welcome back to After Effects, and yeah, like always we want to start by creating a new composition. So go to Composition and click on New Composition. As you may know, I like to give or choose the name for my main comp like Construction Comp. So this is the comp where I want to put everything together. The size is HD TVs 1920 by 1080 pixels. Frame rate is 25 because I live in Europe or in Germany, and the duration in my case it's just 30 seconds. Of course, if you want to do something like a photo gallery or slideshow, you of course have to choose a much longer duration. And then just click OK. And so for this effect with the tear paper or torn paper, you of course need two layers or two textures. I usually recommend that you use of course paper textures or cardboard, whatever. It may work with metal, but I guess it's just a bit unrealistic, okay? So for this tutorial I need two paper textures. Here are some textures I just collected over the years, so I will just choose two random ones, click and drag them into After Effects. Of course I like to stay organized, so I will right click, choose new folder, call that one for example footage, and then just select my two textures and move them inside this folder. Of course you don't have to do it, but as I always say, depending on how big you want your project to get, it's better to stay organized right from the beginning. So then just select the two textures and move them into your main comp right here. Of course, these two textures are way too big. They were shot with my 5D Mark II, so something around 5000 pixels. So select the first one, hit S for scale, and bring it down to, let's say, 55 or even 50. And the one on top, S for scale as well, and also change it, for example, to 42 or something like that. Of course, like I said, it depends on the size of your texture. Okay, so then the one on top I will call, for example, let's call it paper top, and the one on the bottom I will call BG. This, by the way, may also be if you want to showcase an image, like I said, or a photo for a photo gallery. This background texture can also be a photo or a photo collage. So the background layer isn't that important, it's just a layer you want to show later on, or the layer you want to reveal with this tear paper effect. Okay, so for the top layer, like I said, call it paper top, for example, select it, and with this layer I will create now the magic of this kind of tear or torn paper effect. For that I want to choose my pen tool, which is on the top of my toolbar. Okay, please make sure that you have selected the paper top layer. By the way, let's zoom out a bit, and now let's start drawing any kind of shape you want. So I will just do a nice rip off from the center or left to right or right to left. For example, to just kind of show a title for a movie or whatever. So just like I said, select the layer and start drawing some random kind of shape. So just imagine that if you take a paper and rip it or tear it apart, how would that look like? It wouldn't be a straight line, it just would be like I do right here, kind of more random, a more random line. Okay, so maybe just something like that. Okay. Then after I finish drawing my mask, I will then select the layer, hit Ctrl D on the keyboard or go to Edit and Duplicate. Then take this layer, hit enter to change the name and call that one, for example, paper bottom, and bring that, of course, beneath our top layer. Okay, then hit M on the keyboard one time to open up the mask settings. And now instead of add, I will change the mask blend mode to subtract, or also choose inverted. It's just the same effect. So if I had the add layer style or blend mode and click inverted, it's the same as, as I said, subtract. Okay, and now as you can see, nothing is happening because we can see the edge of the mask right here. And we basically can't see any change at all. Okay, so for the moment, let's make our top layer invisible and select our bottom layer. And if you now take a look at this, layer, it doesn't look that realistic, right? It's just two-dimensional. You can't tell which of these layers is on top and which is at the bottom or beneath the top layer. So for the moment, I will choose the paper bottom layer. Right click and choose layer styles and drop shadow. And as you now can see, After Effects just creates this nice little shadow just beneath our texture, and because of that it's now clear that the paper bottom layer is definitely on top of our background layer. If you then take a look at the edges, let's again zoom in a bit. They don't look like they actually were torn or teared apart. I don't know how to say the name, sorry. So just torn apart here. It just looked like it was actually badly cut out in After Effects. But as I said at the beginning, we want to create a kind of realistic tear paper effect. So go to the Effects and Presets panel on the right side and type in an effect which I love to use in most of my videos. It's called Roughen Edges. Click and apply this effect to our paper bottom layer. Okay, by the way, if you want to get rid of this path, just click on this little icon, which makes the path visible or invisible. And now we can see the edge perfectly. So for the roughen edges effect, there are many things that may look a bit confusing in the beginning. For the beginning, you don't need that much. You just boost the complexity up to 10, which is the max, by the way. And then increase the border to kind of high value. I usually stick to, let's say, 30 or 50. It gives me just a very nice, nice edge. Of course, if you have larger textures, like in my case, you may wanna, kind of boost that border to, let's say, 75 or even 100. So maybe this is a bit too much. So let's choose, for example, 60. Okay, and as you can see, our paper now looks, a bit more random as before. Then I will copy that layer, so hit Ctrl C on the keyboard, then go to my paper top layer, make that visible again, and hit Ctrl V to paste it. Okay, finally one more detail I like to do sometimes is, again, go to the paper bottom layer. So if you now take a look at the edge type, it's by default set to roughen, but I will choose roughen color. So what this does, it basically just roughens the edges the same way as before, but it also adds a color. And I will choose a white color or a very light gray to kind of give this illusion of torn paper. Okay, for the top paper, of course, I won't do it, okay? So if we now zoom out, we can see that now we have very cool edges. They look super random and kind of realistic. But now we have a problem because we can see the edges. And usually for the start we don't want to see anything, and only after I tear away the paper I will see this torn edge right here. So we can easily fix that by selecting the bottom layer, then make our path visible again. For example, just click on one of these points right here, then Shift click on your keyboard and just select all the points on the bottom. Then hit Shift on the keyboard again and now move the up or down arrow keys on your keyboard. In this case I will move them up, I guess 1 or 2 times. 2 times should be enough just to close the gap right here. And then just do the same thing also for the top. So 1 times and 2 times. Okay. And as you now see, we are back to default. We don't see any change at all. Of course, if you now take a look at the layers separately, we have, let's say, the kind of normal layer, and then on top we have the cutout. Okay. So yeah, after we set up our whole scene, it's now time to apply this kind of tier paper effect. So for that, I will type in CC page turn. It's a great effect you can also use to create some kind of nice slideshows or nice transitions from image 1 to image 2. So for the moment, I will apply it on top on top of my page top layer. Okay, and as you can see, by default, this effect uses the whole texture, and that's not what we want. So for the moment, let's choose backpage none. Okay, and let's also choose a kind of darker color just to make it a bit more visible for us. Okay, and yeah, this effect is actually very great because if you select it, you can see that there is this nice little, control point right here. And if I move this point to the right side or to the left side, you can see that the page is starting to turn. Okay. Of course, there are more values you can change, like the light direction. Usually the default setting is this kind of highlight line right here. If you just click through the degree settings right here, you can see that sometimes it disappears and sometimes it began to cast a shadow. I usually like to have a kind of decent highlight like that. Then, for example, you want to mess around with the fold radius. Sometimes I like to really give that a very, very high value. So, for example, something around 300 or 500. And what this effect does, as you can see, it just creates this more circled shape for the torn paper effect, which is, in my opinion, a bit more realistic. So for the moment, our scene, I think it starts to look kind of nice, but there's still one thing missing, and that's also a shadow for this paper top layer. Because if I think about it, our bottom paper has a nice shadow, it makes it look a lot more realistic, but our paper top layer doesn't have any shadow at all. If you just right click and choose layer styles drop shadow as well, you can see that we now have these ugly shadows everywhere around the edges. And that's not what we want, so go to Edit, Undo. Okay, then select our paper top layer. Again, hit Ctrl D or go to Edit and Duplicate. Then change the name from paper top to, let's say paper shadow. Okay, and move that beneath our paper bottom layer. For the moment, let's just click this isolate checkbox right here. Then go to the CC page turn effect again, and now go to render and only click on front page. So this will just get rid of this backside of the paper. Okay, then apply an effect which is called hue and saturation. Okay, and then just bring the master lightness all the way down to -100. And now we only have, or just have, a black image or a black texture. So for the moment, let's bring back all other layers. Then select our paper shadow layer and again shift click on the keyboard. And now you can use your arrow keys left or right to bring it to the right side or the left side. I usually just hit it once, so for example once or twice. But it depends on how much shadow you want. I just find that 1 or 2 steps to the right side or left side is enough to create that kind of realistic illusion. Okay, and finally you want to add an effect which is called Gaussian blur. Okay, and just increase the blurriness to a value of, let's say, 30, 40 or 50. I think 40 is, it looks quite nice. Maybe boost it up to 50. And if that is still too much for you guys, you can also hit T for opacity and bring that down as well to, for example, let's say 75, 50. Yeah, it just depends on how much shadow you want. I will also move it one step to the left side. So yeah, I just have this very subtle, decent shadow right here. Okay, so if you now think we are finished, we aren't finished at all, guys, because if you now select the paper top layer, go to the CC page turn, and now let's say you want to start animating this page. So for example, just bring it a bit to the left side. We can see that our shadow still stays at the exact same position. And we don't want that, of course. We want that our shadow follows our page. So let's hit Edit Undo or Control Z on your keyboard. Then select the paper top layer, and now you want to use expressions to kinda connect the paper shadow layer to the paper top layer. So just think about all the effects you want to change or maybe change in the future. Of course, it's the fold position, but maybe you want to also change the fold direction and the fold radius. So just alt-click these three settings. Okay, then select your paper shadow layer and alt-click the same effects as well. Okay, and what you now end up with is that After Effects is opening the expression tabs for all 6 effects. And now your job is just to take this kind of awkward looking circle symbol, it's the pick whip tool, and just connect the fold position from the paper shadow layer to the fold position of the paper top layer. And also do the same thing for fold direction and also for the radius. Then hit enter and U to close all the settings. And now if you select your paper top layer again and again click on CC page turn, and now if we for example move our control point to the right side, let's wait for a couple of seconds, guys, or to the left side, we can see that the shadow perfectly follows our page on the way of its turn. That's basically all you have to do. Of course, now the only part I don't like is the back page of our turning page. Usually a page isn't just a ugly gray mass. Of course, you could change the opacity and you can also change, for example, the color. But yeah, like I said, back pages usually aren't red or gray. They usually also have a texture. So for the texture, I again want to select my paper top layer and go to Edit and Duplicate. Okay, and then, for example, change the name again. Like always, guys, please stay organized. And change the name to, for example, back page. Back and page, yeah. And then, in this case, you want to delete the page turn. Okay, and what we end up with is again just this cutout shape right here. Then bring it all the way to the bottom because we don't have to see it actually. It's just there as a reference for After Effects. And if we now, for example, select the paper top layer and go to the back page, we can see that we also can choose all of our layers. And if we now change or choose, for example, the paper back page, we can see that After Effects is now using this page as a reference for the back page. But still, After Effects, I don't know why, but After Effects isn't able to use the mask before. It uses this layer as a reference, so the mask is not applied, and as you can see, it uses the whole texture, the whole big texture, and that of course doesn't look realistic. Like I said, I don't know why After Effects isn't able to do that. It's actually, it makes the whole process a lot more complicated, but still I have found a nice workaround. Like I said, it's a bit more complicated, it's a bit more effort, but still you end up with a great realistic page turn effect. So for the moment, let's select our shape layer right here. And then, for example, take the same texture again and put it beneath the paper back page. I don't know how big it was with the scale, so hit S for scale. It was at 42%. Okay. And then select the bottom layer and go to track matte and choose alpha matte. Of course, you may also want to import a second texture, or for example a page with some text on it. You don't need to do that, guys. You may also just keep that with the mask, but let's pretend that you want to import, for example, a different texture or different image. you can use the paper top shape as a reference for a track matte, which will mask out everything else. Then select the two layers of the texture you desire. Then go to Layer, Pre-Compose, and call it, for example, again, Back Page. Click OK. And now if we go back to our paper top layer, and now change the back page to back page, we can now see, or should see, that After Effects creates a back page in just the area that we want. Of course, texture has now the same color as our main or front texture, so just open up our comp. Again, for example, apply contrast or do saturation. It really depends on what you want. There are many effects on how you actually can kind of change the color or saturation or lightness of a texture. In my case, as I said, I will just choose hue and saturation and then bring it all the way down to, let's say, -30. Okay, if we now go back to our main comp, we can see that now the page is a lot smaller. Okay guys, still we aren't finished, because if we take a closer look, you can see that now we have this kind of ugly thing right here. It doesn't look realistic. So if we, for example, compare it to our gray back page, in this case it just looks perfect. And if we change the back page to our back page layer, After Effects also creates this kind of edge right here. Again guys, I don't know why this is happening. If you know why, please write me a message or post a comment. I would love to know how to fix that. Or how to fix that easily. But I also found a nice workaround. So once again, go back to our back page comp, select our layer with the mask, hit M 2 times to open up the mask settings, and now just play around with the mask expansion, because the mask expansion just makes the mask a bit bigger or smaller. So if I bring the mask expansion all the way down, my mask gets smaller, as you can see. And if I bring it up to the positive side, my mask will get bigger. So in this case, I may want to shrink my mask, because I want to get rid of this edge right here. So yeah, it's just trial and error guys. There isn't any value you can always use. It of course depends on the texture size. So I may want to start with, let's say, -50 pixels. Okay. And yeah, we still have this edge. So let's bring it back to, let's say, -75 pixels. And yeah, we start to get rid of it. It's just a very little edge right here. So for example, bring it back to 85 pixels. And yeah, as you can see, we now have a perfect edge right here. Okay guys, so that's everything you need to know about how to set up your whole scene. And after that, it's now your time to finally start animating. So select your paper top layer again. Again, select the CC page turn effect. And now let's go to the beginning of my composition, which is at 0, of course. Then hit the stopwatch for fold position and bring it all the way to the right side, okay? Again, let's wait a couple of seconds. And yeah, here we are back to default. Nothing is changing. Everything looks nice and clean. Okay, by the way, if you want to see the keyframes, just select the layer you want to animate and hit U to open up the keyframe and expression settings. Then let's, for example, say move forward for about 1 second in your timeline. Again, select your CC page turn and now bring your control point a bit to the left side. Okay, again, let's wait a couple of seconds. By the way, if your PC is a bit too slow to create an instant preview, you may want to reduce the preview resolution. Instead of full, for example, choose half or third. This will really cut down your preview render time tremendously. Okay, so for the beginning, let's say I even want the bigger fold radius, so it's really round. So let's choose, for example, a radius of 750 and bring it a bit more to the center of my composition. Okay. Yeah, I think that was maybe a bit too much. So let's choose 650. And yeah, I think that looks nice. And then I want to, for example, move forward for about 2 seconds, bring the fold radius down to, let's say, 150, and then bring the controller all the way to the left side. Even a bit more, so it's just outside the window. And if we now take a look at our animation, let's just make a very short preview. So just wait a couple of seconds, guys. Okay guys, so here is our first preview. As you can see, it kind of looks nice. Of course, what I would recommend now is in the beginning, let's select the first keyframe and hit F9 on the keyboard to change the keyframe to an easy ease keyframe. Easy ease means that it kind of starts slow and then it kind of accelerates. Because usually if you start tearing up a paper, you also maybe start slow. And then finally, over time, you may get more powerful and a lot faster. Okay, and that's basically how you create tear or torn paper image reveals. Like I said, the technique itself is, it looks a bit complicated because of all these different layers and shapes and whatever. But basically, it's actually very, very easy. You just need 2 textures or 2 layers. The first one is your top texture, the second one is the layer you want to reveal. And then you just have 2 versions, one with the cutout and then just the cutout itself. Okay, so finally we want to add, of course, a text layer. Here is your logo, I don't know, whatever you want to write. Okay, and also bring it on top of our background layer. Okay. And finally, you may ask, okay, Sam, what is if I want to have multiple torn paper effects? So, for example, let's start with this effect, and after this, after my title is revealed, I want to also rip or tear apart my title and show my first image. For that, I would recommend that you first trim down all layers to the same length. Okay, and then select all the layers and go to Layer and Pre-Compose. And for example, call that one 01 title animation or so, or just title. Click OK. And then basically you just have to treat this layer the same way as you treated your paper top layer. So this layer right here is your layer number 1. And then just import, for example, a second paper layer. So in this case, for example, I will add a third one just to make it a bit more random. Again, put it beneath our top layer, scale it down to, for example, 50%. Like I said, it's just because my textures are really huge. And then, as before, select the top layer, select your pen tool. Let's zoom out a bit. And then just again draw your random shape. Okay. Then duplicate this layer, call this one again number 1 or top layer, and the one here bottom layer. M for the mask, and subtract, and so on and so on. So it's basically always the same thing over and over again. The only cool thing is that once you have one finished product, you can then go on and always copy the roughened edges effect, for example, to really save some time. So yeah, as I said, just copy these effects, and then finally you end up having a nice animation of your images and so on. That's basically all I have to tell you. Like I said, it's always the same technique over and over again. It may look a bit complicated in the beginning, but I guess if you do it just 1, 2 or 3 times, you get the hang out of it. And from there on, it's just always, like I said, repeat the same steps over and over again. Okay guys, that's it for today. Like always, I hope you find this effect useful. So maybe you can use this torn paper effect in one of your animations. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and also check out my other social media sites like Facebook and Instagram. And yeah, like always, stay creative and have fun.